to another episode of Shots on Target with your host, Brad Betts Footy, your go to show for global football analysis and betting. Today is February 4th, 2025. Before we get into the meat and potatoes, I want to introduce my guy, my co host, the Royal Capper at Prince of Picks 10 on X and TikTok. What's up, guy? How are you doing today?
What's up, brother? Doing good, man. Had a great weekend again this past weekend. VIPs, we've been having some really consecutive great weekends here. So, not to mention some of the free bets we hit as well. So, but before I get into that, man, shout out to you. Congratulations on your baby girl that's coming soon. I saw that on Twitter on your post. So shout out to you, man. Girls are a lot of fun. Myself, I'm a brother of two sisters, so I grew up mostly in a home of all women around me. So we love them to death. We can't live without them. So congrats to you, man. Just had to say that to you for sure. But yeah, man. Otherwise, in terms of the bets here, man, for me, I got just maybe one bet for today, but tomorrow is kind of the day I'm looking at in terms of more valuable angles and lines and stuff that I see. So I'll definitely be covering a few games for tomorrow as well. But yeah, I'm excited to get into these ones.
Love it. And if you see me look away, it's because I got my television up. AFC Champions League is on.
Yep.
Algarafas playing Pakator. Both teams need points desperately. They are just below that threshold to get into the knockout stage. And for those unfamiliar, Prince is going to cover the AFC Champions League, but it is the Champions League of Asia. So there's a lot of Asian teams taking it on, teams like Al Hilal, Al Nasser, those teams that we really like. But Al Jarafa specifically, they got Joselu, which is former Real Madrid striker. So they tend to be able to find the net. I'm interested to see what happens here, breaks the deadlock. I wanted to see the game and the pace of play before I put any type of money on it. So we got that over here. We'll be covering it extensively, probably coming in live, as well as that Al Halal match that's coming up again. Prince is going to most likely touch on that. But I'm going to go ahead and jump straight into five of the top five leagues around the world. It's the top five leagues. So France, Germany, Spain, England, and which one did I miss? France, Italy, Spain, Germany, and England. Those five. Crazy, honestly, some of these score lines for some of these leagues. France. France right now is the top scoring league from both teams to score perspective of all the top five leagues. They come in scoring both teams to score a whopping 28 and 6. That is 82%. For over four out of every five matches right now in France is hitting that both teams to score, but the over 2.5s coming in at 24 and 15, just 62%. So you're seeing a lot of those 1-1s. That's something to notate. That BTDS in France tends to be the more profitable bet thus far. Italy, just honestly underneath France, which is another surprising league. Both teams to score is 27 and 7. That's 79%. And the over 2.5 at 24 and 10 at 71%. Very high scoring league. Three out of every four matches are going to hit that over 2.5 or that both teams to score, maybe even both of those. So that's something that you want to notate. Shockingly enough, those two leagues are performing at a higher rate than Germany and England, which is just crazy. If you were to tell somebody that prior to the season, they would just look at you funny. But this is what we're dealing with. And this is the state of the issues that we're dealing with some of these top five leagues. England, both teams to score has come in 18 and 18 in the last 36 matches at 50%. That is poor production from the English Premier League, a really top scoring league in the world. So you want to notate, like, are you betting the English Premier League right now, especially both teams to score? Well, be very careful. It's really not trending well. The over 2.5 is a little bit better in England at 28 and 15 at 65%. So the more profitable bet thus far has been total goals versus both teams to score. Then you look at Spain, 16 and 11 at 59% for the both teams to score, and 15 and 15 at that over 2.5. So right there at 50%. That's pretty standard for your Spanish league, your La Liga. Tends to not be one of the highest scoring leagues. And then you look at Germany. Both teams have scored 19 and 10, 66%. Pretty standard for Germany. Over 2.5, 20 and 9, 69%, just under that 70. So good scoring, pretty solid scoring from Germany, pretty much on brand. What we're seeing here from like a holistic perspective, Italy and France trending well. Germany about the same, trending lower. English Premier League, and right about the same as well, the Spanish La Liga. So when you are taking those bets, as these leagues have started to come back from winter break, just know that some of these leagues aren't performing like they used to, and some of these leagues are performing above expectations. So take that into this weekend, and we'll be utilizing that information going forward.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. A lot of these leagues are kind of fluid in terms of their goal output, so for sure you gotta kind of stay updated and don't go off of what happened maybe a couple months ago because things change quickly here in these leagues. As for me here, we're gonna get into my first bet. We're gonna go to the AFC Asian Champions League, like Brad alluded to. That is the match we're gonna be covering first here. We're gonna go chronological order here. So, 1 p.m. Eastern kickoff, where the Arabian Giants Al Hilal are going to be hosting a Paris Police. We're looking at the Champions League West table here, which, by the way, quick side note: Champions League for Asia is similar to the Champions League for Europe, except for 30 teams. There's only 12 teams, so not as many teams. Top eight do advance to a playoff bracket, so you want to get in the top eight here. And then it's separated by the West table and the East table. So you got 12 in the West and 12 in the East. So just a quick rundown here so you guys have some kind of context of what's going on here. So if we look at the Champions League West table, Al Hilal currently in second place right now with 16 points, but they do have a game in hand and they're just 3 points off the top spot. Meanwhile, Paris Police coming to this one in seventh place with 6 points. So they are somewhat in a bit of a dogfight. Seventh and eighth are tied. You got ninth at 4 points, which is Tashkent, which is playing right now. They're not safely in, but a draw will be very beneficial for them, especially considering Tashkent's goal output, which that's something that we can touch on at a later date. But basically, they don't score very much, so most of their games end in draws or very low scoring. But I digress. In any case, here, so the question for this one is, how does Paris Police have a chance, right? Because you look at Al Hilal, they're so dominant, right? They're the Barcelona of the Middle East, right, of Asia, and just a dominant team here. So looking at Paris Police here, they've allowed 1 goal or less in 11 straight Champions League games. Not only that, but they have allowed 2 or less in 42 of 43 Champions League games. So this is a very stout defensive team. They're traditionally one of the best defensive teams, not just in the Iranian Pro League, but just in Asia in general. One of the greatest defensive teams in all of Asia here is Paris Police. They're allowing just 0.6 goals per game in the Iranian Pro League thus far this season, and they're allowing just 1 goal per game in the Champions League. So goals are hard to come by against this Paris Police team. And so I don't think they're going to be able to go toe to toe here with Al Hilal. Most teams can't, unless you're talking about European teams. And so, with them being a very good defensive team, again, one of the best in Asia, some of their recent trends here include just a 1-0 loss to Al Ali, which, of course, is another one of those giants here in the Middle East with players like Mahrez, Tony, Firmino, Mendy, etc., right? Then another result was a 0-0 draw with Al Nasser. Again, a team full of stars: Ronaldo, Sadio Mane, Otavio, Brozovic, etc. So when they go up against the big guns, they have fared quite well, historically speaking. So you say, okay, do they have a chance? Well, they have a chance if they keep it low scoring. Al Hilal is probably the most vulnerable that's been in about 3 years, right? And it's crazy to think that when they've only lost 2 of their last 11, but before that, they had gone 30 straight matches without a defeat. So if there was ever a time for Al Hilal to potentially slip up, not necessarily lose, but maybe you limit their goal scoring output, I think it would be against the Paris Police team that factually has been very good defensively, not just in the Iranian Pro League, but in all of Asia in general. You might say this is a little bit of a risk. We're going to take the game total under 3.5 here at minus 140. I'm not sure if Paris Police gets on the board, but I do see a scenario, even if they only allow 3 goals against Al Hilal, we still hit the bet. And so a 3-0, 2-0 that wins us the bet. I think Paris Police is going to have to park the bus here. They're going to have to play super defensive. They can't go toe to toe with them. But again, statistically speaking, and best based on the trends here, I think that bet has a real shot to hit. So game total under 3.5 is going to be my play for that one.
Yeah, I think that's a great look. I've watched this line because I was very interested in how they were going to approach this match. I've watched it drop a little by little by little over the last 24, 36 hours. And I find that very, very interesting. And if I look at the table and try to, gather some rationale or reasoning behind why that might be, it's possible because Al Hilal sit with through 6 games at 16 points. And that is, I'm staring right now, 10 points above the the advancement zone.
Mm.
So is there a possibility that Al Hilal rotate maybe a player or two today? Is Leonardo going to be in the squad? Are they going to put Al Duswari? Is Milinkovic Savic going to play? Is Neves going to play? These are all real questions that we need to know. What I saw yesterday, Al Nasser was sitting at 13 points through 6, and they played all of their top guns. Ronaldo, the new signing, Jean Duran, and they looked great, took care of business, but they were at 13 points versus the 16. So maybe that had to do with the full lineup. So I'm very interested to see, does Al Hilal put out their full lineup? Do they go balls to the wall like they normally do? We've watched them lose late in the Saudi Premier League lately. There's a lot of competition now in Saudi that they didn't used to have. So are they going to be full strength? Remains to be seen. And that's a very interesting look. Playing an Al Hilal under is always going to be scary. But when you look at those numbers for Persepolis, I mean, it's hard to argue. Those are really convincing, especially if they come out slow. We'll see. I want to see that matchup in order to provide a real accurate comment or anything like that. So that will come out about 11:15, and we'll see. Very interesting look. I am really excited to watch that game. Not gonna lie. I'm going to highlight a match today between a league that is just returning, and it's a really high scoring league, or at least high performing league. We've talked about it many a times in the past, the Swiss Challenge League. There's a match today between Schaffhausen and Stade Lausanne Uchi. And Schaffhausen has come in and scoring 19 of their last 26 home matches. That's 73%, and 13 of their last 15 versus Stade Lausanne. They've conceded now in 19 straight and 36 of the last 39. That is 92%. They've also conceded 2+ in 12 of 18. So 66% of the time, they're conceding more than one. They've had both teams to score in 12 and 19, over 2.5 in 8 of 23, 18 of 23, and 11 straight when they've hit both teams to score. So those are regular figures, but it's really the team on the defense, or the team away from home, excuse me. Stade Lausanne has scored in 15 of 18, so they're regular scorers in the Challenge League, but they're more regular conceders. 25 of their last 26 away from home they've conceded, and 50 of their last 54 matches. So that's regular conceding. One of the top conceders in the Swiss Challenge League. They've hit both teams to score in one of their two previous matchups and over 2.5 and 2 of the 3. The reason that I'm not going forward with this match is because I've seen Schaffhausen. I looked at their lineup returning from break. So they've had one match returned from break and what they had prior to break. 3 of their top goal scoring attackers are now gone. They have moved to some of the other teams in the Challenge League as well as outside of the Challenge League. So what you're looking at on the surface for Schaffhausen at home isn't really what you're seeing. So be very careful if you're going to look at this. I love the stats on this match, to be quite honest. But because I've seen so much rotation in the offensive end, and you've seen that line shift to that away team being even money, there's a lot of concern to be had on that match. So I know I've talked about this regularly. I just want to highlight it because we need to look and see if Schaffhausen is that same team. If they perform to the same ability today, then that could be a good indicator of what they will be playing going forward. They did score 2 goals in their first match, but those were late goals and they were by the center back. So it leads me to believe that those were off of set pieces. Be very careful. We want to make sure they're scoring in open play. So that is a match that I'm looking at, but I'm not going to pull the trigger today. Something that you need to know going forward. Before I get into my next match, what do you got?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so next up, we're gonna head to Wednesday's matches now. We got a 2:45 p.m. Eastern kickoff in the German Cup. We got Bayer Leverkusen taking on Köln, or Cologne, also known as. Some interesting stats here. 17 of the 22 head-to-heads here have been decided by 2 goals or less. So they've generally been pretty tight and cagey. It hasn't really been a blowout on either side. However, Köln have won 2 of the last 3 at Leverkusen. So not afraid to go into Bayern here and get a dub. They have the second ranked defense in Bundesliga 2 currently, does Köln. So a very stout defensive team. They come into this one having undefeated in 12 of their last 13. I'll say they do come in good form here, does Köln. Leverkusen on the other side here, they have won by 2 or less in 18 of their last 29 matches overall. So again, you think of a Leverkusen team, you think of the dominant team from last year, right? You think of the, this year, another great side here. but they don't really blow out teams. Statistically speaking, most of their goals, are either by two or sorry, most of their wins are by two or less. So uh, my angle here is I think this one could be close. I'm not going to go out and say Cole's going to win, but I think Cole could be a live dog here. But I like Cole +2 on the Asian handicap at -145. I'm okay with a push if it hits, but I think this game could be decided by one goal or less, based on the trends, based on the current form that Cole's in. With this being a cup match, Cole's going to play all their players. You would assume Leverkusen will, but you never know because it is a domestic cup. And sometimes these big teams, they don't take the domestic cup as serious as other tournaments, and even as serious as their own league. So it'll be interesting to see who Leverkusen puts out there. But even if they put out a top side, I do think Cologne, based on their form, based on the historic trends here, I think they have a shot here. But we'll take Cologne +2 at -145.
Yeah, covering a 3-goal spread is quite the task. I've seen Köln in the German 2 league, which is a very high scoring league, consistently shoot the under, even against those high performing teams. The, Last season, they were an open play style, love to run and gun, push the pace a little bit more. This season, they're not playing with that same, I don't know, I'm not going to say fight, but they're not going forward, not shelling out as much as they used to, being a little bit more conservative. I think that could play right into your bet. If Leverkusen has any rotation in their attacking end, this could be very comfortable and could move the number a little bit. I expect Boniface Victor to be in this lineup, given that his move away was canceled. I assume they're going to insert him into this lineup. I don't know if Patrick Schick will start this match, or Frimpong, or some of those other really important players. So that's something you need to know when this lineup is announced, and that will change the line from left to right, going from -1.5 to 2 or 2.5, depending on how they put the lineup out. So that, again, lineups are super, super crucial on cup matches, more so than probably any other fixture. You just never know who's going to be in the lineup. It's some cause for concern, especially when I watch my own team, Arsenal. I never know who's going to be in the lineup in the cup matches. So how am I supposed to guess on somebody else?
Right.
Great look. Interested. Next, I'm going to highlight another league that's returning, another Swiss league, the Swiss Super League. So we highlighted the Challenge League, which is the second division. Now we're going to the top flight, the Swiss Super League, in a match between Sion and Servette. Sion comes in scoring in 24 of 32, 75%. However, since their promotion, they were in the Challenge League last season. Now they're up in the top flight. They've now scored in just 14 of 21. That is 66%. Little bit of cause for concern. They now have conceded in 14 of 15. So regular conceders, no surprise given their promotion. They're playing some tougher competition, looking like they're conceding regularly. Yes, they do score pretty often, but they're taking on one of the top squads, Servette, who scored in 17 of 19. They've conceded in 17 of 22 and 13 of 16 away. So they do regularly, or have regularly lately, conceded. But again, this is against a team who's newly promoted. We might not see the same vigor. Servette might get the best of them. They have hit both teams to score in 12 of their last 16 that they've played one another. That looks good. And over 2.5 in 10 of 11. So typically we have seen goals fly in this fixture. However, when you have a team that is coming up from a lower league to a top league, and combine that with coming off of a long break, you don't necessarily want to immediately attack. You want to know Sion is performing well and Servette is performing well, but we're going to watch this match. We're going to try to get 3, 4, 5 matches in before we attack. I've seen St. Gallen not look as good as they have in the past. Servette's not looking as good. So some cause for concern in Switzerland right now. So I like and wanted to highlight two of those bets because we don't have a lot of league action today. And those are two really high scoring leagues, but we're going to look to attack them shortly. What do you have next for us?
Awesome. All right. So next up, we're staying on Wednesday's matches here. We got a 2:45 p.m. Eastern kickoff. We're going to the Scottish Premiership. We're gonna call this one a bagpipe banger. We got the Celtic, who's gonna be hosting Dundee FC. Now, Celtic is typically a team we don't want to fade here in the Scottish Premiership, but just because they're so dominant, only one loss on the season so far in the domestic league, and I'm not going to fade them here. However, when I see an Asian handicap of +3, I have to look into it because that's a huge number to cover here. And so when we look into the stats here, 23 of 30 head to head here with Dundee FC I'm sorry, 23 of 30 head to head. Dundee FC have covered or pushed a +3 spread. So only 7 times of the last 30 have they not covered. They drew 3-3 with Celtic just about a month ago on January 14th. So obviously that was a tightly contested match there. And Celtic, they have not covered a -3 spread in 21 of their last 26 matches. So again, this is a Celtic team. They don't cover -3 spreads. This is a Dundee team that head to head, they have covered +3 spreads against Celtic. I'm playing the trends here. I think Dundee +3 -160. There is always a possibility that Celtic could blow the doors off of anyone in the Premiership, Scottish Premiership. But based on the trends here, based on Celtic's current form, they're kind of up and down. They haven't been too great in the European competitions. Even domestically, they've been winning, but they haven't been winning convincingly. They've been missing a lot of opportunities in front of net. So, it's kind of if there was ever a time to fade them, it would be now. Again, I'm not actually taking Dundee on the money line here, but I will take Dundee +3 at -160. I think that's great value.
4-goal spread. That is
Lot.
a lot. And
That's a lot.
if Dundee can find the board at all,
Yeah.
that means they're going to have to put up 5 goals in order to cover the spread. That is a lot. And given, like you mentioned, Celtic, whatever, their current form is really not that great. They're not putting up those kind of numbers that you used to see. They're conceding a whole lot more than they used to. So that is some cause for concern. They did do some work in the transfer market. We'll see how that settles the squad. Now, I'm going to get into my best bet for today. Full disclosure, it's a half unit bet because it's a league that I don't necessarily bet all the time. So I backed it down just a little bit. I love the stats, but because it's not one that I bet all the time, we're bringing it down just a little bit. And because it's midweek, but Northern Ireland, there's a matchup today between Coleraine and Cliftonville. Coleraine scored in 21 of 24 and 2+ in 5 of their last 8 home matches. So scoring at home regularly, scoring overall regularly. They've conceded now in 29 of 37, which is 78%, 17 of their last 20 in the league. So constantly scoring and conceding, especially in the league. 2+, they've conceded now in 11 of 16. So they're also conceding multiple goals, which is what you want to see from a home team. Both teams have scored 11, 15, over 2.5, and 17 of 20. 17 of 20 is really solid numbers to be able to hit those overs. That gives you a lot of flexibility there with that both teams to score as well. Then you have Cliftonville. They've scored in 22 of 30, but 15 straight versus Coleraine. The last time that they didn't score versus Coleraine was February of 2022. So that's a long time there. They've conceded now away from home in 20 straight in the league. So whenever they go away from home in the league, they're conceding. And they've hit over 2.5, or sorry, they've hit both teams to score now in 20 of their 27 away matches. So they're regularly hitting the both teams to score. That's about 75%. And when they hit that both teams to score, over 2.5 has come in 27 of 30. So they're regularly hitting that over. But above everything else, well, besides the 10 unbeaten in a row that they are, or Cliftonville is the Coleraine, so you expect them to be able to compete. Both teams' scores now come in 12 of the 14 matches that they've played one another, and over 2.5 is coming in 14 straight. So these are teams that are constantly hitting their numbers, and they're constantly hitting them when they play one another. And in the league, both teams' scores now hit 9 straight matches. Over 2.5 is now hit in 7 of 9. So for my best bet, I like a bet split today in Northern Ireland between Coleraine and Cliftonville, between the both teams to score at -140 and the over 2.5 at -120.
Love it. Yeah, Northern Ireland is a tricky. It's kind of a fun league for me to bet on. It's matchup dependent for sure, but yeah, you can definitely find some values. I've dabbled in it a little bit, so I'll definitely be interested in seeing how that one plays out. Finally, for me here, we are going to stay on Wednesday here. We got a 9:35 p.m. Eastern kickoff here. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite leagues to bet on. We're gonna go to the Major Arena Soccer League. Now, so a little bit of info here for some of you who may not know what this is all about. It's not heavily covered, it's not heavily marketed, it's not heavily advertised. It's a pretty niche league, but there's 12 teams in this league. Obviously, BTTS is not a factor here because you're going to see goals on both ends consistently. But what kind of lines you get here more consistently is you get overs for your total, for your game total, you get overs for your team totals, and then you get handicaps, for one side or the other. Those are typically the three lines that you'll find in this league. This league has seen some notable players come through over the years. They've only been around about 10, I think about 10 years so far. As there used to be an indoor league way back in the day, but that folded, and this is a new one here. Some notable names right now. Currently, Blas Perez, the Panamanian legend striker. He's actually on one of these teams here at Dallas. He plays for the Dallas Sidekicks. So he's 44 years old, and he's out there, trotting around. He looks 44 when he plays. So I think this is probably the perfect league for him in terms of not having to run too much. But in any case, here it's an interesting league to bet on. We've had some real success here lately. We hit on a couple dog money lines. We hit a plus 1100 from a Texas team that got their first win. We also hit a plus 220 last night on another team. So we've been winning a lot of our bets in this league. So we're hoping to continue that trend here in this one. So for this one, we got Empire Strikers coming in sixth place here in the table, and they're going to be hosting Chihuahua Savage, who are the number one team in the table right now. If we look at the stats here, Empire, they've allowed the third most goals in the table, but they've also scored the second most goals. So Empire matches typically are high scoring. You typically see a lot of goals coming in and a lot of goals going the other way. Meanwhile, Chihuahua on the other side, they have scored the most goals in the season thus far. 43 more goals than Strikers, who are second. So Chihuahua is absolutely blasting the net regularly here this season. The total has hit the total did hit 16 on their previous head-to-head. Chihuahua here, they have covered an over 12 and a half total in 9 of 14 matches this season. Meanwhile, Strikers have also covered an over 12 and a half total in 8 of 14 matches this season. So those are both numbers that we like to look at here in terms of our percentages. We're playing the trends. We're playing the stats here. We're playing goals, goals, goals in this one. Game total over 12 and a half goals, minus 105. Now, I will tell you, goals are not necessarily a guarantee in this league. You would think so with it being a smaller field and fast paced, but you will see some teams that if they're not trending highly, the total may end at 6 or 7 goals, which is for indoor soccer relatively low speaking. So it's not an automatic. You would think, yeah, over 10, over 11 should hit regularly, but it doesn't. But in this matchup, based on the trends, I like that a lot. So we're going to go game total over 12 and a half year goals between Empire Strikers and Chihuahua Savage.
That's awesome. I can't, unfortunately, bet Massel. I looked through all my books. No major arena soccer league in Tennessee, which is surprising. We typically have almost every single football league. So, unfortunately, I can't join you. Same thing with the English National Leagues. But I will be watching. I have some friends who have played and currently still play in the Massel. So, it is a league that I would like to cover. I just unfortunately can't. I just saw Giraffa just missed a point blank opportunity inside the box, keeper out, comes across open, and he just puts it to the side right at the keeper. Not the right position to play, but that's something we need to notate. These teams right now don't necessarily look like they're pushing too hard. I think the 3 points is really up for grabs right now. Could be something they look to attempt to obtain in the second half because you can't win or lose in the first half, but you can in the second half. Now, those are some really great looks that we've given you guys today, as well as some best bets for today and tomorrow. We've covered top 5 leagues, how they're scoring. We have covered extensively the slate for today as well as tomorrow. There's a lot of cup matches that I don't really like to bet, especially without lineups, but even with lineups, sometimes they're just not what you expect. And I would like to make bets of stuff that I can expect or at least hope to expect. So be very careful with all of your cup betting this week. Some movement of those players. Some of those players who are signed haven't got into the team just yet. Some of them have, so they will change how these matches will be played. But again, I think that covers everything for today. Thanks, Dave McBride, Russell Johnson, Zach Doyle, Tony Metzger. Appreciate you guys for coming and joining. It looks like Prince is seeing the board well, says Russell Johnson. You absolutely love to see that. Some consistency within Prince's bets. We love to see that. And we're so happy to have him on the show to be able to bring his knowledge, insight, and his best bets here every Tuesday at 10 a.m. on Shots on Target with your host, Brad Betts Footy, my co-host, Prince at Prince of Picks 10, the Royal Capper. Again, thanks again. This is your go-to show for global football analysis and betting. It is February 4th. We'll be back next Tuesday with hopefully a little bit more to cover without some of these tricky matches. And we'll have another week under our belt with a lot of these leagues that are returning, which we will be tackling a lot over the next few months, keeping my bets low again still until I can see some of that familiarity, some of these leagues, some of these players in the lineup that I want to see. I mean, yesterday I wanted to highlight. Yesterday I wanted to place more bets, but in the middle of the Chelsea match yesterday, they had three players that were linked away that left. So let's be honest, they're in the middle of a match, and their war room is going ham. Like looking to send players, and obviously some of those were not on the bench, and those were last minute drops. Be very, very careful right now. It's just how it is. It's annoying, honestly, but it's the world of football. And if I've been doing this for long enough to know that if I come out and start betting a lot right now, I'm going to put myself into a really poor position financially. And I don't want to do that. I want to keep the money in my bank account. So, with that being said, let's be light, let's be gentle, let's watch the slate, let's continue to highlight those who are trending, and we'll be starting to attack them way more frequently in the near future. Again, thanks again for coming with your host, Brad Betts Footy, and your co host at Prince of Picks 10 on TikTok as well as X. We will see you guys later.